Hey, welcome to Life in the Leadership Lane. I'm your host, Bruce Waller, where I get to talk to leaders that are making a difference in the workplace and in our communities. What did they do to get started? And what are they doing to stay there? Here we are, season 7. Oh my goodness, and I'm bringing you another special guest today. As today I'm getting to talk to Elizabeth McCormick. Elizabeth is also known as the pilot speaker. We're going to talk a lot about that. She's a former U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter pilot. She's also recognized as one of the top 30 motivational keynote speakers around the world. And of course, you're a former National Speaker Association of North Texas president. I think you've done that multiple times, and which is actually where we met. And I'm so glad to have you on the show. How you doing, Elizabeth?
Glad to be here.
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to have you on. I've had you on my list
I
to
know you
come
are.
onto the show for a long time,
Yep.
but you said, "Hey, Bruce, my book." You're also an author of 20 books. I think you're probably starting on number 21, maybe 22
It
already, but
2021 is almost done.
is that right? Okay, so you said, "Hey, as soon as number 20 is done, let's go on the show." And I'm just going to hold this up right here. Here is number 20, and I have my own assigned copy called The Credibility Factor: 77 Tips to Boost Your Visibility, Amplify Your Credibility, and Scale Your Expert Brand. And so, again, I'm glad to have you on the show. I definitely want to get into your book, but before we do that, I always like to start the show kind of reflecting on when I met my guests or when they came to my path. And for you, I just real quick, we met at the National Speakers Association of North Texas, and my very first meeting was Ross Bernstein. He came in January, and I remember asking you, and you were very welcoming. You've always been so gracious, an incredible ambassador. But I remember asking you, are all of our meetings like this? That was so good. Do you remember that meeting?
I do. Ross is a good friend of mine, so yes.
Yes. Oh, it was like it was to me, it was very energizing. And people, one of the reasons why I like being part of that community is we get to learn from each other, but also great speakers like Ross came in and spoke, and I pulled a lot of takeaways from him, and I've loved that. How long have you been part of National Speakers Association?
12 years for
Yeah,
at the national level and
yeah,
the chapter level pretty much about the same time.
yeah.
And I will say that the speakers, I mean, the energy levels are different. Ross is on the high end, but the energy, they some bring in more quiet, calm, peaceful energy, and
Mm.
a super high energy. So kind of the energy they tend to bring on their stages with their clients, it tends to kind of transfer over into when they're teaching about their business in the back end. But I find it really interesting because NSA kind of pulls back the curtain and you see
Mm.
the behind the scenes things that you don't see on social media and you don't see when if you saw them at an event doing their regular stuff.
Yeah, that's where I tell people all the time that's where the value is for me is I get to go in and I just get to learn different things about the business. And it's always something different. I mean, Jennifer Darling was in last week and she taught us some LinkedIn tricks and tips and just phenomenal. And then, of course, Clint Pulver was in and he came in and brought his drums. So there's just an enormous amount of learning that goes on there. So so glad we met. And I've watched you ever since and I've admired you. And so now I get to have you on the show. For those who don't know Elizabeth McCormick, tell your story. Like, where did you grow up and how in the world did you get into writing and keynote speaking?
Well, the keynote speaking came first, and then
Mm.
somebody like was speaking for almost a year, and consistently people would come up to me afterwards and be like, "Where's your book? I want to buy your book."
Oh.
And I was like, "Oh, I better write a book." So I grew up in Michigan, but when
Mhm.
I was 10 years old, my parents divorced before divorce was popular. My parents divorced, and my dad moved to Texas, so here in Plano, Dallas, and North Texas. And he moved here, so I grew up spending my summers in Texas and my school years and winters in Michigan. So I like to say I'm weather hardened. So went to college, married who I call my starter husband in college, and then he joined the military. I followed him to Fort Polk, Louisiana, and couldn't get a job was miserable. Ended up one night I ended up working in a pizza place after
Mm.
5 years of college, almost 3 degrees, and I couldn't get a job. So I'm working in a pizza place, and one night I looked at him and I just went, if he could be in the army, why can't I be in the army?
Hmm.
So I decided, I had a big case of, yeah, if he could do it, I could do it. Decided to join the army, wanted a cooler job. He was a medic. I didn't want to do that. So I wanted a cooler job. So I researched it, talked to a lot of the officers, and found out that being the coolest job in the army is being a pilot.
Hmm.
So we decided to become a helicopter pilot. Didn't know it was hard. Didn't know they'd only let women in 18, 20 years before that, but they were only letting women in like one at a time.
Hmm.
And flight school's a year long. Like it was slow going. I didn't know any of that. I didn't know it was hard. I didn't know the process was hard. I didn't know that like flight schools was hard. I didn't know the challenges women would have. I just like I had all this college and I
Hmm.
was on the volleyball team in college. We're doing two-a-days in athletic and I like of course I could do this. So I started training with my starter husband, started training with his unit and working out and researching it to find out what I needed to do and ended up getting one of two spots in the nation. Didn't know that either. So I didn't even
Hmm.
know there were only two spots until after I got in. Got my spot and went into basic training, then straight to candidate school, warrant officer candidate school. Went to flight school. From flight after flight school, got my Black Hawk transition course. They do it a little differently now, but back then
Hmm.
went right in and started flying missions and served the U.S. Army and our country for almost 8 years.
Oh, wow. Oh my. First of all, thank you for your service. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You said you didn't know it was hard, and
No,
then it was hard.
hard.
Talk about that because I mean there's people listening right now going, man, how did she get through the hard though? Because there had to be a lot of challenge. I mean, enormous amount of challenges. I mean, there's probably an endless list from being very few women getting in to actually going through and making it through flight school and just being able to continue down that path. Talk a little bit about, I don't know, your perseverance and your belief and all that. Like, where did that come from?
The underlying belief, I would say, started from growing up with my dad being
Hmm.
he owned a construction company here in Dallas, and I would, he would have us out on the construction sites. I mean, he never had me do like jackhammer and like stuff, but I would scrape and paint and I mean, I was out on the construction sites with guys. So
Hmm.
I never really saw the physical differences
Hmm.
that I think a lot of stereotypical like, oh no, go play with your dolls. I never really experienced that or had that. Always more of a doer with things and get things done kind of personality. So that's just kind of what I did. I kind of put my head down and did that and in the yuck and the stuck,
Hmm.
I would just focus on the next thing. And in my book, The Pilot Method, my big book that has the stories,
Hmm.
I talk about how like, when you're stuck, when things are hard, what is the next thing you can do? Don't focus on what you can't do.
Hmm.
What is the next thing you can do? And if you just keep focusing on like the next step and the next motion and the next thing,
Yeah.
then eventually you're a lot further along than if you were still mired down in that stuck part.
Yeah. I heard Russell Wilson once call that the neutral mindset. You can't worry about what's happened, like the last play. He's talking about football. Hey,
Mhm.
you can't worry about what happened the last play. What's the next play? And
Mhm.
that's what you're talking about. You got to keep focusing on what's the next. How can I keep moving forward? I guess, if you will.
I mean, not to say that you don't debrief and learn from what you've done, but
Yeah.
the problem is we spend too much time there
Yeah.
and we don't. And there's actually in the helicopter, when you're flying a helicopter, it requires more fuel to hover and stay in one place
Mm.
than
Mm.
to get forward motion. So, how much fuel are you consuming staying in one place? We're natural, the inertia and the physics of it is our bodies want to be in motion. Our minds want to be in motion. We want to keep moving forward. And if you keep are pulling it back, that's a lot of negative energy that's holding you back and dragging you.
You've been speaking for a very, very long time, an incredible speaker. I'm just curious. You mentioned that you started speaking before you wrote a book. Now you've written 20 books, but have you found your keynotes, your speaking, have you found them like pivoting, or do you still talk about kind of some of the things you talked about when you started? I'm curious for those who are listening. Any thoughts around that? The progression of
So
that?
yeah, I mean, so I'll write a new book and I'll write a new keynote or training for that book, and everybody still wants the helicopter stories. They're signature stories. They're
Yeah,
what they're very unique.
yeah.
I create interactive experiences for my audiences, get the whole room leaning right hand, left hand feet, and get the whole room leaning in the same direction. And that's really unique. So
Mm,
that's typically why I get referred. That's why people want me. So if something works, maybe you should stick with that until it
mm-hmm,
stops working, right? So I'm constantly tweaking though, like
mm,
new ways of but small tweaks. I
mm-hmm,
would say small hinges open big doors.
mm,
So what are the small tweaks that you can make to do that 1% improvement, 2% improvement over time to make it better? So is my stories and the keynotes I tell, I have one on Thursday on a stage. Is that going to be the same as what I did when I first started full time 16
mm.
years ago or part time while I worked a corporate job 20 years ago? No, not even close. So it's much more polished but
Yeah.
I'll do everything mostly the same. I customize and tailor it for the client and their
Yeah.
industry and their needs and their objectives. So I can take the same base keynote and I can have modules that I can add in and make it for sales, and I can make it for safety, and I can make it for
Mm,
leadership, and I can make it just for entertainment for a banquet, and I can make it for motivational when they just need the fire, which I
mm,
think most people get tired right now.
mm,
So I can tailor it for the different audiences with different lessons to the stories, different modules I interchangeably drop in and out.
mm.
The basic framework, the basic stories, pretty consistent and universal.
I love that. It's just like going to a concert. I'd still, if I'm going to see Journey, I still want to see Don't Stop
Don't
Believing.
stop
I
believing.
want to
Yeah.
hear
And if you
it.
don't, what happens? You're
That's right.
disappointed.
Exactly. Exactly. I want to get into your book, but I do have one question that I like to ask all my guests, and particularly you. I want to hear your response to this. But my first book I wrote is called Find Your Lane, and it's really around finding your calling. And I'm curious, like you started speaking 20 years ago, and here you are today. You're one of the top motivational speakers in the world. Was there a moment when you were on stage, maybe you finished a keynote, whatever that time frame was there a moment when you said, I found my calling, what I love to do, my purpose in life? Was there a moment or were there moments for that? For those who are listening that might be thinking about speaking, I'm curious what your moment was.
So it's really funny because I grew up really shy. Like I am like this inner introvert, and I had to kind of treat it. I'm a task-oriented person too, so I kind of treat it as a task to go out and say hi to people. Like it was a task at an NSA meeting to greet people and to find new people and make sure everybody feels welcome. And then I did it, right? But my nature is to sit back and kind of watch the world go by
Mm,
and people watch and all that. So like for me to even think about being a speaker was in completely out of
mm,
my zone. It came to me, the military would send me out to speak at schools and youth groups and
mm,
air shows and things because I was the only female. So they
mm,
would send me out for things like that. And that kind of started it, but that was just really answering questions. It wasn't a speech. And then my first experience with speech, with giving presentations, I was with a network marketing company while I was in the military. I was a single parent. I needed the money.
mm,
We don't get paid that well in the military. So I needed extra income. I needed girl time. I had to pay a babysitter to do girl time, though. So I joined a network marketing company and I ended up doing very well with that company. and they asked me to speak on their stage. And I'll never forget, I was a breakout of a, a 3,000 person conference, and I'm doing the breakouts, and I had to do it 6 times, and then people would flow in and out, right?
Oh.
All room, and they could pick and choose which one. So I had to do it 3 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon. Two things I'll never forget about that. Technically three, but two things I'll never forget. One is it was the first time I'd ever really presented. And
Hmm.
they you had a meeting and trained and prepared for it. And my mother sat in the front row and bawled, cried
Aw.
because I was so shy and did it. So I will never forget that, like, because I was trying not to look at her and start crying myself. But I'll never forget that. But I will never forget standing on that stage. And of course, I knew my content. I had it all mostly memorized, right? It's a little bit needs to be fluid so it doesn't feel scripted. But I stood on that stage and I knew what to do. Knew
Hmm.
how to move. I knew how to, it's like it poured into me, and I was the vessel for the knowledge that the audience needed.
Mm.
And it's still like I will get ready to walk on stage. Now it's 2,000 paid speeches later. I'll get ready to walk on stage, and I call it the tap. When you hear that little spiritual voice inside of you saying, they need this. Like I
Oh.
had one, I
Ooh.
completely scripted and planned. I got the tap, and it was like, they need this. I'm like, really? Like I had this all planned, really? And it's like, no, no, they need this. And so I've learned to listen to that kind of intuition, spiritual
Mm.
guide, voice, whatever, God, whatever it is, angel, whatever it is that you believe in.
Mm.
I learned to listen to that voice. And
Mm.
usually afterwards, somebody will come up and be like, I needed that today. Like,
Mm.
whether it was one person or the whole audience, there was something there that I'm here to make a difference for. And just as a little tip, the third thing is I was horrible at breath control and microphone management. Like horrible. Like that is a learned skill. That is not something you're going to get day one, is how to when to breathe and how to not to be like I have the audio recordings. They didn't video back then,
Mm-hmm.
20 years. I have the audio recordings still of that. I was like Darth Vader. I listen to it now and I'm like, oh my God. But those are learned, so
Yeah.
is it natural for everyone? No,
Yeah.
it is a muscle, it is a learned skill. It is something that you can cultivate being a better speaker or presenter. Even your presence and charisma on stage. Those can all be learned.
I love that. I heard, I think it was Steve Harvey that talked about your gift, and you'll know your gift because it doesn't take as much effort. And when you talked about, hey, I knew how to move, I knew how to do some of these things,
Just not
that
breathe.
except the breathing. I love that. I wrote also put quotations around the tap. I like that because I've heard it in a different way before, but I love that. Well, let's talk about your new book, The Credibility Factor: 77 Tips to boost your visibility, amplify your credibility, and scale your expert brand. What like you? I went back. I've looked at all your books. You've written a lot of books around tips. I'm curious what motivated you to write this book.
So it's funny because my 20th book was supposed to be the 21st book. So
Oh.
it was supposed to be Fly, First Lead Yourself, a big book with business stories and experience, speaking business stories and
Hmm.
experience. It's a few military stories I haven't told yet. And all about leading yourself. And it was in back in probably back in June. It was about halfway done. And I had a conference book me to speak, and they said, and they very specifically wanted me to talk about the media stuff I had done around the DCA Black Hawk crash last year. They wanted me to talk about the media. It was a business conference. They wanted me to talk about media. They wanted me to talk about AI. They wanted me to talk
Mm.
about visibility and that because I'm very good at that.
Hmm.
So they asked me to speak about that, and then they said, "Well, do you have a book on that?" And I said, "I can." So I sat over and again, 77 tips. I sat over a weekend and wrote that.
Oh, wow.
it's all things I'm doing in my business. It's all things I have done in my business. It's things that I teach. So I wrote that in a weekend, and then I went back in. After I wrote it, I went in and dropped. And here's how AI made it a little easier. That 77 tip book has 60 AI prompts in there,
Oh yeah.
all in different highlighted boxes. The 60, I dropped each tip into, if it was, unless it filled a page. If it filled a page, I didn't have,
Hmm.
but I dropped each tip into AI and asked AI what AI prompt would help the reader with this tip, and had AI write the AI prompts.
I love all that. And I'm just going to hold up this book. If you're listening, you'll have to jump over to the video to see that. She's got it in a highlight. This particular one is a tip number 8, brand your client outcomes. And in this particular one, it's not an AR prompt. It's a QR code.
Resource. There are resources throughout
Yeah,
too.
for
There's like
resources.
there's like 10 resources, which are like links to either a blog post with more information, or like that one is an AI branding um,
Hmm.
that I recommend. So there's resources throughout the book as well.
Were there any tips in here that I don't know, you've written the book, you put it out there now, and that people have come back to you and said, this is really helpful, or any tips in particular that were more popular than other, or have you heard any stories that anything you've learned since you've written the book?
Yeah, a lot, a lot. So, the big thing here is how AI has changed business,
Okay.
right? So, and a lot of people say SEO, search engine optimization, is dead. And it's not dead. It's
Okay.
different. People,
Hmm.
it used to be people were Google first,
Yeah.
right? Or YouTube, which is owned by Google first.
Mm-hmm.
Now people are going AI first.
Hmm.
So instead of feeding your search engine optimization for Google and optimizing for Google, you have to optimize for AI and
Hmm.
and answers and search. So one of the big things is how do you I call it feeding the beast. How do you feed the AI algorithms and the beast so that way you are referred and recommended by AI?
I love that. And I was actually looking at tip number 61. It says use AI to draft timely press releases. And I was just presented an award that actually it was announced. I was going to draft a press release on this. And so I'm using this for that. I'll have to give you more information once I get done with this, but very helpful because I immediately said, oh, I need this right here.
And that's how like the DCA crash last January, it happened at 8 o'clock at night. And I'm
Hmm.
watching what happened is all of these people are texting, calling me because it's a Black Hawk, right?
Yeah.
All these people are texting me and calling me. And so I turned on the news and they had some on-air guy on different networks, different guy, but all guys. None of them had flown a helicopter.
Hmm.
None of them knew what was going on. None of them, all of them were not saying factual information based on the facts that we knew at that moment. So what I did is I got mad.
Mm-hmm.
I got mad and I jumped over. I knew immediately from the news reports, like there were three things I immediately knew. We had the recording from the air traffic control. I knew we had, even from that first video, there
Yeah.
were two other planes in that sky by that, in addition to they had the one that was taken off and the one that was landing. And based on the air traffic control call, I knew that they didn't weren't clear as to which, they said, do you have traffic in sight? Well, which
Mm-hmm.
one? And it's that, do you have traffic in sight? Do you have multiple traffic in sight, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have the one at and I didn't know the clock positions at the time, but
Yeah.
do you have the one at the 2 o'clock and you have the one at the 11 o'clock? Like,
Yeah.
so they didn't give you that. So if I was the pilot and you said, do you have the traffic in sight? And I see the one taken off, I think we're caught, I think that's the one they mean. Air traffic control could have just said it because there had a traffic alert going off in there in the tower. They could have said, helicopter PAT, they could have said hold short.
Mm-hmm.
A helicopter can hover in place. Like we can just stop on a dime. Hold short of your position right now you're too high, you need to change,
Mm.
you got other aircraft coming into land, like hold short, stop. Like just everybody stopped. Like even the airplane, go around. Like the air traffic control is supposed to control the traffic, and that didn't happen. So that was one reason. The Black Hawk legally could fly with a crew of three, but optimally under night vision goggles at night should have
Mm.
had a crew of four. So if you bring in only have instead of one if you have one crew member in the back instead of two, you're reducing visibility by 25% in your rear wall,
Mm.
in the sides and quadrants. So I still haven't seen which seat was the crew chief in the back of the Black Hawk. I'm suspecting the crew chief was on the right side. The crash happened on the left side for visibility. We now know that that crew inside the aircraft was distracted. They had an altimeter issue. Their readings on the altimeter were incorrect. They were higher than they thought they were. They, and even between the cockpit, the two altimeters were reading different numbers. So there was some confusion in the cockpit. They were also in a training mode. So I suspect they were debriefing an emergent, like they simulate emergencies and see how you are because it was an evaluation. So I suspect they were in some kind of training mode and weren't really paying as much attention outside as they should have near an airfield.
Hmm.
So poor situational awareness in that moment on the entire crew, not just one pilot or the other. There's been a lot of blame on the female pilot.
Yeah.
And it was technically the pilot in command was the male warrant officer, because he was the instructor pilot. So there was that, and then they were too high. The aircraft, the American Airlines
Hmm.
regional jet did nothing wrong. They had right of way. They were under air traffic control, and in a descending to land, they were nose up and wouldn't have been able to have seen anything out the windows.
And that was, man, that was a year ago. That's hard to believe. Did you use that I think, because I saw you were like on like several major
Major.
channels, like CNN, ABC, all of these different channels.
Ready.
Oh, you were, because I remember you were sending out these messages, hey, I'm getting ready to go live on, CNN or whatever. How did they find you for that? Did you use some of
They
this
found me from
to
the
get
press.
in there?
They found me from the press release. So
Ah,
so the
from the
guy
press
on the air
release.
was saying wrong stuff. Like he was
Okay.
helicopter, he was saying wrong stuff. I got mad. I wrote down my three things I just went through.
Okay.
I wrote those down and then dropped into AI. Said,
Oh,
write a press release around this. You still have to have your thought leadership, right?
yeah,
You still have to have
yeah.
your perspective or your thing or your award information, something to start it from, and then say,
Mm-hmm.
write a press release around this. Add my bio, add some questions that news media could ask me. And I had it all. So I even had sample questions in it. I sent out that initial press release, and that initial press release went viral on the
Mm.
media side, and then it went to my website, my LinkedIn, my social media. They started calling.
Mm-hmm.
So the first call, I submitted the press release at like 3 a.m.
Mm.
I couldn't sleep. I was stressed at 3 a.m. And my first phone call was 8 a.m. in the morning from TMZ.
Mm.
Now I didn't know
Yeah.
TMZ would have paid me if I'd asked. And TMZ records interviews and syndicates it.
Oh.
So they charge other media outlets for that.
Mm-hmm.
So what then happened is when they were wanting to charge other media outfits for that, they're like, well, we'll just call her direct. So they
Mm-hmm.
started, my phone went nuts. And
Mm.
the big one, I did EWTN, which is like a Catholic based show. They did a long interview on me that morning.
Mm.
And I'm in a crappy little hotel in rural Georgia. Like it was not ideal background. I didn't have my studio set up. Luckily, I had, because I already had a virtual presentation I had to do on the road. So luckily, I had my lights and microphone, a small travel set I keep. But it was,
Yeah, because I remember, I think I might have, I don't know if we text but maybe you sent a post out, but you were traveling during that time. And
hard,
I was like, man,
hard.
yeah,
Had an
yeah,
event in rural Georgia at a hospital, and they were very gracious and kind and didn't like I felt really
yeah,
bad because I was like, I'm on CNN right before my speech, and
yeah,
I'm on with Como on his show like after the
yeah.
speech, and I could not like mix and mingle at all. Like I'm so sorry. Like and they put
Oh,
I mean they were very kind. They understood the tragedy, and I
yeah,
was like, look, like it activated something in me.
yeah.
I have to get the facts. We have to focus on.
Hmm.
I mean, at the same time, there was all this buzz about DEI, and it was a female pilot. It was one of the three out of one, two, three, four, five between the two aircraft. The two pilots in the jet were male. The pilot in command instructor pilot was male. The crew chief was male, and everybody was blaming the female co-pilot that was being evaluated. Like, I'm like, come on. Like, it's
Mm.
not a DEI issue. This is
Yeah.
not, so just, kind of having that voice of reason
Yeah.
and in through it all. And that's what I really felt like my role was to make sure we were focused on facts
Yeah.
and we were focused. And when the very first interview with CNN and that went viral,
Hmm.
like 4.4 million views in 2 days, they on their channel, not mine,
Mm.
they they tried to make it political. He asked
Yeah.
me he asked me a politics question related to this, and I looked at him. I just looked at the camera and said, you do a disservice to
Yeah.
everyone who perished in this tragedy by
Yeah.
making it political. Why not
Mm.
just stick to what we know?
That's right. Yeah.
Like, and then it got around really fast. The producers are like, "Don't ask her anything political. Don't ask her anything political."
Yeah.
Horrible
Well,
tragedy, totally preventable, should not have happened.
I love this story, and because everything you're talking about, visibility, credibility, and expert brand, you positioned yourself to be ready for that moment. And that's what I think that's what some of the things I'm looking forward to. I have looked through all this now. I need to start using it, the
Mm.
prompts, using the resources to try to help because I love everything about that. And as you're sharing the story, I'm like, man, that's what she's talking about, the credibility factor. And so, for those who want to pick up a copy of this book, I'm going to put a link in the show notes so you can pick up a copy of that. And again, 77 tips. Even if you just got one tip out of it,
Mhm.
it could really amplify a
There's a
lot of
lot more
things,
than
right?
one that's good. Those are good ones. So,
No,
and just
these
AI
are
prompts,
great.
just if you went through and just did the AI prompts and
Yeah.
just retyped them in your own words, just that is valuable.
Yep. No, I love that. And I'm so glad that you put this out there and I'm looking forward to doing that. I do want to ask this one last question before I get into it's time to accelerate. And that is, have you ever been given any advice? It was just so good that you find yourself sharing that with others. It might have been growing up, I don't know, with your mom or your dad, or maybe it was in the army. You got some great advice. Anything that you can share with the listeners today?
So growing up with my dad on those construction sites, I noticed he was always kind to the facilities manager and the
Mm,
janitor and the people who are working in the shifts or the people you might see in a break room. He was very, very kind to everyone. And, I was kind of like, I didn't know. I was young,
mm,
we're talking 12 years old, 13 years old, little bit of attitude. And I'm like, so like you don't work for that guy. Like, why are you being so nice to that guy? And he goes, you never know who you're going to work for.
mm,
So he's like, one day they might be the facilities manager, the next day they're the plant manager making the buying decisions.
mm.
You just don't know. So in business, it's better to be kind to everyone you meet. And
I
I
love that.
try to do that. And, we all have our days. In the military, the saying when I almost failed flight school because of gender bias, I had a substitute flight instructor come in and he said, do you want this? And that stays with me also. So do you want this?
Mm,
Because sometimes we get tired,
mm.
right? Sometimes we lose sight of our vision or we lose focus or we're distracted. And so staying absolutely in that zone of focus where, do I want this? And staying connected and committed to the passion and the fire that sometimes just gets tired.
This is so good. Do you want this? I just wrote that down, circled it, underlined it. This has been so good. Hey, I want to shift over here to it's time to accelerate. I'm going to ask you
All
some
right.
fun questions. Here we are. We're kicking off, 2026. What are you
20%.
looking forward to this year? You got anything lined up that you're excited about?
I have a couple big things. So, my 21st book, Fly, that was supposed to come out, and I'm pushed credibility factor up front for the event. So that
Mm,
one, we're in final writing stages, adding some research in and a few things. So that should come, I'm hoping comes out March or April.
How wonderful.
Gosh, I hope so. It's been like I've been working on it a while. So that's Fly, First Lead Yourself. And then
Hmm.
got a big TV thing coming that's a little top secret. I can't share a lot, but let's just say I'm going to the gym a lot more. So,
Hmm. Awesome. I love that. Fly, first lead yourself. Oh, I cannot wait till that comes out. That's going
mhm.
to be some fun. Okay. Hey, I know that I always talk about, there's a common thread with high performers, and that is they're continuous learners.
Mhm.
I'm just curious. I mean, is there anything you want to learn?
I think, especially like business wise and speaking wise, like I'm right now all in on learning AI,
Hmm.
better with AI and vibe coding and all kinds of like, oh, there's so much.
Hmm.
I went to a vibe coding AI marketing conference in October, the end of
Hmm.
October, early November. I took 20 pages of notes, so for me to take, and my brain hurt. It was a 3-day conference. My brain hurt at
Hmm.
the end of each day.
Hmm.
It was really out of my comfort zone. I didn't know what some of the stuff was. I audio recorded it. I took copious notes, and I'm still going through those notes and trying to figure some of it out. But so for me, that's to me, it's staying ahead.
Yeah.
I may not be on the bleeding edge at the very front, right? But it's still for me. I think it's important in business that we stay ahead of at least ahead of the pack.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. All right. So, great leaders are grateful leaders. What are you grateful for?
Always have my own health because without
Mm,
that, like,
yeah.
my own health, my family's health and well-being, those are given. I'm grateful for clients who trust me to
Mm,
bring in and trust me with their audiences.
mm,
So I never take that for granted. I'm always fully present, a partner with events and things because it's without them, I don't have a business. So,
mm.
so I would say those are the big three for me.
Yeah, I love that. I'm grateful for you for coming on the show today. Okay, this is my last question. I've asked this to over 250 of my guests, and this is the question. Elizabeth, 10 years older. She's around the corner right now knocking at your door, and you're going to get up and go answer that door. What's she going to tell you?
I will tell you my goal. How about
Mm,
that? My goal is for 10 years from now is to be known as the female Zig Ziglar, the female Tony Robbins, the female for not for fame, for impact and influence. Mel Robbins is up there now, but
mm-hmm,
for the longest time, all the top motivational speakers were men. And we need more for our youth, our children. We
mm,
need more strong women role models that aren't sexualized, that aren't, having to wear a leotard and jumpsuit, on a movie. Like we need more women role models that are strong for the future generations to look up to.
I love that. And I've enjoyed watching your journey. I know you're going to achieve great, 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 great things. You're phenomenal. And I'm so glad I got that chance to have you on the show, you sharing your wisdom and your perspective. And of course, the book, The Credibility Factor, I'll put the link in the show notes. Hey, for those who I don't know, they heard a little bit of your story today and they're like, man, I want to follow her, or hey, you know what, we're actually looking for a keynote speaker, or I want to learn a little bit more about the books. What's a best way for people to contact you?
I am so easy to find. Everything is Pilot Speaker.
Mm,
Pilotspeaker.com. Pilot Speaker is my handle on every social media platform. It is everywhere. So pilotspeaker.com.
I love that policy, and I'll put that in the show notes. I put down. You just gave everybody the easy button.
It is and
Just
it's
make it
easy to
easy.
remember. Easy to remember. So there's a business tip in and of itself. Like make your handle for all your social media and your website the same and make it easy to remember and
Yeah,
spell.
I love that. Well, again, I'll put all your information in the show notes. I cannot wait also till your book Fly comes out. and pick up a copy of that as well. And so, yeah, follow Elizabeth, reach out and connect. And if you do, or when you do, reach out and connect, be sure and let her know you heard her on Life in Leadership Lane, and maybe something that she shared that was impactful. It makes the connection so much easier. And so, Elizabeth, I appreciate you just coming on and sharing your wisdom. Thank you for signing my book. And I cannot wait to watch the road ahead. And I'm so grateful for our friendship.
Always, it's been a pleasure to know you and see you grow, Bruce, and congratulations on your award.
Awesome. Hey, thanks. I cannot wait to share this. I'll talk to you later.